Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Eric Johansson, teacher and tutor with LSAT Demon. Joining me is Nathan Fox, co-founder of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast Thinking LSAT. Today we have an email from Nernemsaa.
Nernemsaa says, how do I improve my prediction skills? I realize that the process of elimination gets me 100% accuracy, and predicting the answer speeds up that process. So it's imperative that I enhance this skill. Well, first thing, it's kind of odd how this correspondent seems to think that you're doing it so that you can speed up your process of elimination, because the first best reason to predict is that you're gonna just predict the right answer a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to be assuming that they're always going to be doing process of elimination, that they're never going to be actually predicting the answer and positively identifying the correct answer. Now, it's true that on the LSAT, you're always going to want to read all 5 answers, and you are going to want to read them. You know, if you find something that you love, or if you find something that matches your prediction and you love it, then you're still kind of doing process of elimination, just in the sense that you're going to look at B, you're going to look at C, look at D, look at E, but you don't have to read them all the way through. You don't have to really decipher them necessarily. You're not conclusively eliminating those wrong answers in that situation. You're going to go way, way faster if you allow yourself to actually predict the right answer sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is a main conclusion question or a sufficient assumption question, I mean, you should be predicting 100% of the answers on those 2 question types. On strengthen, weaken, necessary assumption, flaw, many other question types, you should be predicting the answer half the time, probably. Paradox questions,
Mm-hmm.
you should have a good idea what the answer is. And then, yes, if you don't find exactly what you're looking for, you are going to end up doing some process of elimination, getting rid of the ones that just don't answer the question, and having a good prediction should speed up that process. But again, the first best reason to predict is because you actually will predict the answer to the question a lot. And then I don't really feel like I'm doing process of elimination at that point. I feel like I know the answer before I ever even read the answer choices. And the other wrong answers just get dismissed because they're bullshit. They're just not answering the question. They're meandering. Okay, well, you're wandering off. That's not going to be it because I know what I need here. And then I'm just skimming answers to find that.
What if I feel like I never seem to predict the correct answer, or I just struggle to ever come up with a prediction?
I just don't accept that you never predict the correct answer, because there are 2 question types where you have to predict the correct answer, because if you don't, then you're just not doing the test right. And that is main conclusion questions and sufficient assumption questions. Main conclusion question, all they're asking you is, what was the big picture? What was the main point of that whole passage? Well, there is some evidence in there, and that evidence is used to support a conclusion. And you should be able to read the argument and show me on the page where the main conclusion is. That's your prediction. The correct answer has to match that. If it doesn't, then I don't know. You're not reading the argument well enough, I guess, to not taking the time to unpack.
I think we had a conversation in Slack as a team not too long ago about how we talk about prediction, and how a lot of what we mean when we talk about prediction is really just reaction. How we react to the passage as we read, because prediction is not something that happens after you have read the question.
Right.
Yes, partly that is when it happens. That's when you articulate a more specific form of the reaction that you had. But prediction is constant as you read. It's really about having some sort of reaction or objection to the argument that you're reading, or homing in on what the author's main point is in an RC passage, really demanding of them, what's your point here? What are you trying to get across? It's that process that ends up forming your prediction. It's not this separate step that takes place after you've read the question.
I'm not sure whether it was on Thinking LSAT or it might have been on LSAT Demon Daily, but we had a hockey analogy at one point. We talked about 3 phases of prediction, just like there's 3 phases or three periods in a hockey game. So when you attack an argument, you are making a prediction. So that happens while I'm reading it. If I read something that sounds like a conclusion, I go, oh, really? I think that's your conclusion. What evidence do you have for reaching that conclusion? So there's a phase of prediction that's happening just by attacking the argument. Then when I get done with the argument, there's another phase of prediction where it's like, okay, so they did make an argument there. There is a conclusion there. What's the evidence? Okay, it's XYZ. What's the conclusion? Well, that's ABC. Does the evidence actually support that conclusion or not? That's another phase of I'm predicting there again. And then the last phase is after I read the question itself, because then I find out who I'm working for. Is this a strengthen question? Is it a weaken question? Is it a flaw question? Is it a sufficient assumption question? Like, what exactly am I trying to do here? And then I'll craft a prediction based on the question that I'm being asked and the type of thing that tends to be right for this type of question. So I'm always predicting. Attacking as I read, that's a prediction. Attacking after I've read, that's a prediction. And then attacking based on question type is a third prediction. But ultimately, what we're doing here is calling bullshit. Are they making an argument? If they're not making an argument, then you don't really get to call bullshit. You just go, okay, so there's a bunch of fun facts. Could I connect any of those facts together? Could I use this to make any kind of an argument? But when they are making an argument, that's when prediction really becomes powerful, because if they've made an argument, 90% of the time it's going to be incomplete or outright flawed. So 90% of the time you need to be able to tell them, here's what you did wrong. Here's what you left out. Here's the thing that you said in your conclusion that you never said anywhere else in the passage, or here's the part that just doesn't quite connect. Here's a common sense objection to the conclusion that you're trying to reach based on the evidence that you have. And that's what prediction is in LSAT logical reasoning. It's just calling bullshit on arguments.
What about reading comp?
Reading comp, the prediction is more like trying to figure out why the hell the document exists. Like, what is it that you're really trying to sell me here? Because they'll kind of go on for a while, right? They'll give somebody's perspective, and then maybe they might give someone else's perspective. And the thing that my predicting on reading comp is like, yeah, but what do you think, author? Well, you've told me what so-and-so thinks, and you've told me what another person thinks. And I can see how those perspectives are similar or different or whatever. Like I know what this one wants and I know what this one wants, but author, what do you want? And that's the most important prediction that I'm making as I'm reading the passage. Is I'm like kind of, oh, well, I bet the author thinks this. And then as I get deeper into the passage, I have to revise that based on what the author actually says.
And then when it comes to the questions themselves, I always tell people that they're really just main point questions in reading comp. That
right.
If you do nothing else besides remember the author's main point, 90% of the time, that's as much of a prediction that you need going into any question in reading comp.
Other times they might ask you more specific questions about one part of the argument, in which case maybe you reread a little bit of the passage and you then make a specific focused prediction about that aspect of it. But you're right that when they ask you the main point or the primary purpose or the author's attitude or tone or any of those things, it's always just, those are really main point questions in disguise.
Totally.
Thank you for writing in. Please email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.